When you stop seeking performance and validation and you step into authenticity, there's a whole nother level of joy.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Redefining Wealth podcast with me, Patrice Washington, and I'm so excited that you are back. If you're brand new, you need to know this is a community that believes that wealth is so much more than just money and material possessions. We believe in the original 12th century definition of wealth, which says it's about the condition of well-being. And to be well, we have to really manage the voices that we have around us. So let me ask you a question. What if the loudest voice that is keeping you stuck is not the judgment of others, but the judgment you've placed on yourself? What I know to be true is even the most successful women, I'm talking entrepreneurs, thought leaders, mothers who are raising entire families while building empires, have still felt the tug of what we call validation addiction. It's that constant checking in with the committee. You know, the committee, the family, the friends, the mentors, sometimes even strangers on the internet. You are hoping for confirmation before you can take that next step forward, hoping that someone else's yes will finally give you the courage to own your own. If you're just joining us for this season of Redefining Wealth, here's what you need to know. I am dedicating this entire season to my dear, dear friend, Rachel Luna. She left this earth on August 4th, but not before she left powerful words and frameworks and such an amazing legacy that so many of us still get to enjoy. And so in the Redefining Wealth app, in our community, we have been reading together her amazing book, Permission to Offend. This is the compassionate guide for living unfiltered and unafraid. And oh my goodness. In this book, Rachel shares how she lived most of her life making decisions by committee until she realized she had given too much power to outside judgment. And that's what today's conversation is about. It is releasing the need to say, don't judge me, and instead asking the deeper question, whose judgment really matters anyway? So to help me unpack this is my good friend, Brooke Hemingway, who also was a good friend of Rachel Luna's. And Brooke is also tiny but mighty, just like Rachel. She is a powerhouse entrepreneur, wife, and mom of 6. And she knows firsthand what it's like to break free from validation addiction and step fully into a life that is led by conviction instead of led by committee. So after I do this affirmation of the week, which for this season we're calling your permission slip of the week, the next thing you'll hear is my conversation with the Brooke Hemingway. This week's permission slip is, I give myself permission to be judged, knowing that the opinions of others do not define my truth. I release the need for approval and I choose alignment over applause. I trust that judgment is simply feedback. It's not a verdict on my worth. I honor the voice within me as the ultimate authority on my life and of my life. And I walk boldly knowing that being judged is just proof that I am standing for something. Declare with me today, I give myself permission to be judged. Welcome to the Redefining Wealth podcast, Brooke.
Thank you so much for having me. I have been looking forward to this deep conversation.
Oh my gosh, I've been looking forward to actually having you on the podcast for a long time. I know we were on when we talked about our trip to Hawaii, which, by the way, if you heard that episode with Brooke and Amberly Lago and I, and you did not come to Hawaii, baby, you missed some magic. We had everything from double rainbows in the sky to just, it was just incredible.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. And I think a once in a lifetime opportunity and experience, and just something I'll never forget. So if there's ever another opportunity to get in Patrice's room, like, do it, be in the room with her.
And to get in Brooke's room, you should absolutely do it. And we'll definitely talk about that towards the end. But Brooke, when I was thinking about this season, as you know, to honor Rachel, and I got to this chapter, which is chapter 6, that was about validation and external validation in particular. it really made me think of you because I feel like at your events, the aligned events, I've been to 3 of them, I believe at this point, I've heard you speak about, seasons in your life where you had to just stop thinking about what other people thought about you and just do you. And obviously, you're an incredible entrepreneur and raising 6 kids, which is crazy to me. Still, anyone with over 1 child is like a miracle worker, in my opinion. But you've been able to do all of these things. You live in multiple cities. The kids are going with you from city to city. You have to be willing to release external validation to walk the way that you walk. So let's get into it. Where do you want to start?
I think I'll start with the whole decades of my life where I didn't release that, because I think that everyone sees where we are now, like where you are, where I am, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is fascinating. Like, this is amazing. She must have come out the womb like this. And it's like, no, I did not come like this. In fact, I believe that our need for validation most comes from our internal beliefs that we are in alignment with and that are controlling what our identity is. And for me, for all of my life, if I go back and I think about the most dominant beliefs that I've had about myself that I've identified with, is that I'm bad and I'm a disappointment. And I desperately did not want to be a disappointment and desperately did not want to be a bad mom, a bad leader, a bad daughter, a bad wife, a bad sister, a bad fill in the blank, whatever it was. I didn't want that. And I desperately didn't want to be a disappointment. And so what that led to was behaving in a way that was how other people wanted me to behave. And that really is validation. Like, sometimes we think like validation is just like people are telling us, you're amazing, you're incredible, wow, how do you do it all? But validation is also when you show up and you behave in a way that you think other people want you to behave, and you contort yourself and you twist yourself and it's like you're a contortionist because you feel like that's what you have to be in order to hold a valid space in their life and to be approved and to be acceptable. And so I spent most of my life actually being the sister that I thought I was supposed to be, the daughter that I was supposed to be, being disconnected from myself. Because when you're seeking external validation, the only way to be living in external validation is to be disconnected from yourself and from God. When you're connected to self and God, you get that internal benefit of internal validation. But I was seeking for most of my life for external validation. I wanted to be a good girl. I didn't want to be a disappointment. I don't know if anyone listening can relate to that, but who I am now is not who I was then. You're laughing.
because you give me little rebel vibes. Like when I first met you in some of our early conversations, but then I would say in particular, seeing you in your element at your events on stage, you give rock star energy. I'm wearing leather pants, I'm doing bright colors. I'm just doing what lights me up. And so it wasn't until I started to hear more of your story and more about how you grew up that it dawned on me that this is who you've become. This is not how you started. So What was the turning point that made you say, I can't keep living for other people's validation?
I think the turning point for so many people is that you strive and you do the hard work and you grind and you perform. I think performance is a big thing for people that want validation. We're performers. We know how to perform. You could also call that people pleasing. And so I was really, really good at that. I was good at it in my marriage. I was good at it, in my businesses. I could perform. But over time, it becomes harder and harder and harder to maintain that level of performance because it's really contrary to your nature. And so what happened several years ago is I just hit this point of burnout where like I could not keep doing the same thing. And I was either going to light a match to everything in my life and walk away from everything in my life, or I was going to do the work of figuring out what was actually going on inside of me. And I think that's the first thing you have to do if you want to end this insatiable need for external validation, is figure out, what am I actually thinking, believing, feeling, and identifying with for myself? And like I said, for me, it was, I'm not enough. I'm bad. I'm a disappointment. I'll never be good enough. And these were the things that I discovered were like ruling and motivating every unconscious behavior. And so it happened because I just about crashed and burned. And I think just the divine guidance of God, like being like, girl, you can't quit. You have to figure this out. And so I did the hard work of unpacking, or as you say, deconstructing, like all of the things that I had thought about myself and the stories that I had created that had me showing up, performing in this way. It just becomes so hard and so exhausting. And I think at some point, maybe when you hit your 40s or mid 30s, for me, it was my early 40s, I literally could not do it anymore.
Yeah, it becomes intolerable.
Yeah, and exhausting. I didn't have the energy for it. So it was that point where I was like, I got to get really real with myself. And no matter how much success I had externally, because I had there was a lot of validation. Everyone came to me for advice. How do I build my business? I was getting all of these incredible things and amazing accolades, and I felt nothing. I felt nothing. And that was a warning sign to me that was like, okay, it doesn't matter how much validation I get, it's actually not filling the hole. It's not helping me to feel true joy from inside. It's like a temporary hit. Everyone's looking for a new drug, right? And that drug is validation. And you keep needing more and more and more of that new drug. And it wasn't doing it for me. And it terrified me, honestly. I thought, oh my gosh, like there's nothing that can motivate me. That wasn't true. It was just that the external validation wasn't going to do it for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's how so many of us become addicted to achievement, and we don't even realize that's what it is. There's many of us, and I've coached women for years on this, that are constantly, I need another degree, I need another certification, I need another thing and another thing, a bigger house, a better car. And it's like a chasing after the wind. It is constantly looking for new ways to get that external validation, when the truth is, there is an internal void that cannot be quenched until you're willing to do the work, until you're willing to ask yourself really hard questions. And this is why we always talk about radical honesty. Like, are you willing to ask yourself better questions about who said that I wasn't enough? Like, where did I get this from? Or even as Rachel talks about in the book, it's not that we're always internally having this I'm not worthy conversation. It comes out in how we price our offers. It comes out in how we, tolerate certain behavior from people. It comes out and it just comes out. It leaks out, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't realize it until you are willing to stop.
Yes.
Right. And usually we don't stop until a boulder hits, Brooke. Like, something usually has to happen because we're usually just on autopilot. But it's not until you stop, or you're forced to stop, and you take a look back and you start to try to connect the dots and say, what made me tolerate this in that season? And what was going on in this relationship? And why did I stay in that environment? And like, what made me accept this type of treatment? And it's hard to do, but it is the necessary thing to do if we don't want to keep being, what I say, a public success, but a private failure. Like, publicly people are applauding, but internally we're distraught all the damn time and not at rest and not at peace.
Well, and all we do is we create patterns, right? We create patterns, and we have to start recognizing the patterns in our life. And ultimately, I believe that in radical ownership and radical honesty, you start to take accountability for the fact that you do create your circumstances and relationships. And you create your circumstances and relationships. And that might feel harsh to some of you listening. Like, listen, accept it, but also have compassion for yourself. So when I started to realize that I had created some of these circumstances and I had created some toxic relationships, because I think it's really popular nowadays for people to talk about toxic relationships and toxic people. But it's like, how did you attract that into your life? How did you create that circumstance and relationship? Nothing comes from nothing. For every action, there is an equal action or reaction. And so if I believe something about myself, like I'm a bad person, I am going to act in a way or accept certain behaviors from some people because I don't want to be a bad friend. So I'll tolerate things that I wouldn't tolerate if I didn't believe that about myself. And so whatever circumstances or relationships you have, there's no mystery why that's in your life. You're believing, thinking, feeling something about yourself. And so in congruence with believing that, you are attracting that circumstance, that relationship, that validation, that situation that you have. The next time you don't like something in your life, but you keep seeking it, you keep creating it, there's a pattern of these same relationships or a pattern of failure or burnout in your business, you have to go back to like, what am I believing, thinking, or feeling about myself that is creating this insatiable need to have this pattern in my life, right?
Oh, this is so good. Absolutely. Like thinking about how many of us talk about toxic things, right? And it's so true. It's so thrown out there in social media. Oh, this toxic relationship, toxic work environment, toxic this. And I think that we forget, though, like you said, that we can take radical ownership over the fact that we always have an option. And the reality is, many of us live our lives as if we are obligated to stay in these relationships. We are obligated to stay in these workplaces. And anytime we live from obligation, we suffer. Because if you are like, well, I just have to be here and it's crappy and they treat me bad and this and that. And it's like, well, you always have the option to get up and do something different. And the reality is we don't want to deal with the consequences and because permission to offend. Some of us are, I don't want to be offensive. So I'd rather sit here and let you tap dance all over me because I don't want to be offensive. It's like, we really have to own our part in all of this.
True. And ultimately, I believe like God will bring you to your knees. Like you're going to get the lesson no matter what. But actually, even in saying that, it's not that God will bring you to your knees, because how many of you guys listening think like I'm getting what I deserve, like God is punishing me? I don't think that that's how God works. I think that God is a God of order. He is a God that it allows the natural choices that we make. He allows those choices to create certain circumstances or consequences. Like it's the natural state of things in life. Like for every action, like I said, there is an equal action or reaction. So God's not punishing us. He just like allows things to play out until we wake up and we realize, like you and I were saying before this recording, the gig's up. Like I see things clearly as they are. I see the role that I've played in it. I see that I've been trying to people please. I see that I've been trying to get my needs of love and connection met, but I've been trying to get that need met in an unhealthy way. I've been trying to get that need met through contorting myself. What if I could get that need met from within me? What if I could get that need met through relationship with myself and God and not everybody else? And this is what reminds me of this making decisions by committee. I know you mentioned that, but this is like one of my favorite things that Rachel ever said that stopped me in my tracks, because I realized so many times in my life, I would go and ask 5 different people for their opinion. I would look for, like when we're talking about external validation, we're not just talking about people praising us. We're looking also for validation in the decisions that we make. We're looking for validations in the path that we take. And I was that person that wanted to know what my mom thought. I wanted to know what my sister thought. I wanted to know what other people in the industry thought. And ultimately, I started to realize that they're all going to have their own wounds and their own junk and their own crap and their own lens through which they see things. And I don't need their opinion. If I got the answer, I got the answer. If I got the inspiration, I got the inspiration. My job is to be obedient to the gut feeling that I have. And I think it has a lot to do with obedience. Shedding the validation that you need has so much to do with falling into alignment with your assignment and being obedient to it, not worrying if anybody else understands. To this very day, my mom doesn't really understand what I do. And I love my mom so much, but I don't think she thinks that what I do is a valid career. I don't think she gets it, but I also don't seek her approval anymore.
Transformation has a requirement, And that requirement is that you cannot do it alone. Mastery Momentum is my exclusive mastermind for high achieving women who've already made an impact, but you know there's another level waiting for you. This is where your brilliance meets humanity with open arms. You get to walk in as the powerhouse that you are and still have space to say, I don't know. And you will be supported through the range of all of the emotions that come with that. So if you are ready to grow with women who match your ambition and honor your authenticity, I want to encourage you to apply now. Space is limited and enrollment only happens a few times a year. So go to masteryandmomentum.com. That's masteryandmomentum.com. Let me speak for those of us who may have Caribbean or African parents, okay? Because this comes up in my community, in my coaching all the time. So, I'm Belizean, and for my family, it felt like the only jobs that were valid were like nurse, doctor, engineer, attorney, all the things, right? And I remember about third grade, I told my dad I was going to be a lawyer because I knew about a handful of potential careers. Doctor, blood, not my thing. Firefighter, not going to be my thing. It's very easy. So I was like, oh, I love to talk, argue a little bit. I'll be an attorney, right? And after I graduated from undergrad and said I was starting my own business, my dad was like, what is wrong with you? Like, you need to go to law school or business school or something. And I'm like, no, that's not what I feel like called to do. I want to be an entrepreneur. This is from a man who was an entrepreneur my entire life. Like
Right.
By the time I came around, my dad had already gone into entrepreneurship.
Right.
But for whatever reason, I don't think he saw that for his girls, maybe his
Yes.
sons, but not daughters.
Right.
And so when everything happened, built a 7-figure business, crashed in the recession, had to start over from scratch. And I remember as I was blogging and starting to write for magazines and, starting to speak, my mom, they're not married. My mom would tell my dad about what I was doing, and he would say, I sure hope that is going to help her resume. And then it would be years. So now I'm like on the Steve Harvey morning show, nationally syndicated radio show. It's like my second appearance on Dr. Oz. And he tells my mom, like, I sure hope that this is going to help her build her resume. My dad came to our house and was like, wow, Gerald's doing really well. That was my ex-husband. No credit. No credit to me. It's like
I get that because I am married to a doctor, so it must be the doctor. And I'm like, no, I built this house.
He just couldn't see it. And you know what? I laugh about this, but what's important about it is when I was about 35 years old, I had to release the need to have his validation or approval about who I am and what I do in the world. I just had to release it.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where honestly, when I was younger, I felt like his validation meant his love.
Mm-hmm.
So even as a kid, it was like I had to get straight A's and I had to get really great grades. And, and it brought me great joy to call and say, I got straight A's, or I got this award, or I'm the captain of this team, or I'm the president of, my senior class. Like I was always striving to do things to show my dad that I was worthy and I was lovable and to get his validation. And I would be about 35 years old. Yeah. It's only been just almost a decade now where I was like, you know what? I'm doing what I feel like God called me to do. I'm doing what I feel I was assigned to do in this world. And ultimately, if my Heavenly Father who gave me, I know what I got from my dad, and I'm very grateful for my physical father. However, ultimately, the mandate on my life was given to me by my creator, like my real creator.
Yeah.
And as long as I leave here knowing that I have his love and affection and the fact that I show up every day with this desire to give God something to bless, like to be a blessing to his people, to do something to grow this kingdom, I'm like, that's all I got. And everybody else, you're welcome. Like you get the benefit of being adjacent to this, but as long as it's like me and God, I just feel okay. I'm like, and it's been, it's been 10 years now, but I'll tell you this too. It freed me to have a more authentic relationship with my father because I'm not coming to him with performance. I'm coming to him with just, Dad, here I am.
Yes.
Here's Patrice, not here's Money Maven, not here's Redefining World Podcast, not here's this house or this accolade. Here's Patrice. So if you talk to me and when I come visit you, you know it's real. It's not because I'm trying to get you to like me because of something I'm showing you. And that has been the most freeing thing for me, I think, of the last decade.
Yeah, it's a more authentic relationship, and you stop needing to get something, which is another way of saying needing validation. You stop needing to get something from someone that honestly just doesn't have the capacity to give it to you. And I think the more that you are in relationship with self and God and in alignment, and you have internal validation, which, by the way, helps you to run the race consistently and longer. When you are constantly seeking external validation, you're on and you're off, you're hot and you're cold, you're in and you're out, and you're exhausted. When you are internally fueled and you have internal validation and you know you're in alignment, those are the people that show up consistently. That's like Patrice going live every single day in her app, or me showing my face every single day in my stories, or just like continuing to go like rain or shine. It's like I have the fuel, I have the energy to keep going. And like when I came up against this with my mom, she said something one day. I was having this conversation with her, and really it was from her wounds. Like she wanted something from me. She wanted closeness to me. And I wanted to be a good daughter, right? And I wanted to feel validated in that. And so I used to pick up the phone anytime she would call, anytime, day or night. I was always there for her. I would always take care of things. And I stopped doing that as I had a career because I had to have some boundaries and standards. And I was now a working mom at the time with 5 and then 6 kids, like 10 and under. And so I had these businesses, I had these children. I didn't have a whole bunch of support in my life, and I couldn't do that. And I said to my mom, well, Mom, if you tried to call Klain, my brother Klain, he's a anesthesiologist. If you tried to call him in the middle of his workday and he couldn't answer, would you be mad at him? And she said, well, no, honey, but that's different because he's a doctor. And in that moment, I wasn't mad at her. I just saw things clearly. I was like, okay, my mom has a specific lens through which she sees things. I'm not going to change that. So for me to continue to have this discussion with her, to seek love, to seek validation, to seek approval, I'm actually just punishing myself. I'm inflicting more pain upon myself because she can't give that to me. So instead, like you said, I just want to have an authentic relationship with my mom. We don't ever have to talk about my career. She doesn't really know very much about what I do. I did my event in Scottsdale last year. My mom lives in Gilbert. My mom wasn't there.
Wow.
It didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
I was like, that's cool. To her, I am her daughter. And in this way, this is how she sees me. And that is totally fine because I don't get all of my validation and all of my worth and all of my needs met from my mom. I can get certain things from my mom. And I have friends, or I have professionals, or I have other areas in my life that I get my other needs met. So I don't need all of my validation from my mom, and I'm internally validated. I know if I'm in alignment and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do with my life, I have more peace. I have more power. I don't have to accept what other people think of me or judge me. Rachel talks about this in the book. She talks about the story of one of her clients like overhearing a conversation where people were like talking about her and saying all this kind of stuff about her and really tearing her apart. And she sat on that call and she kept herself muted. The people didn't know that she could hear all this. I have had experiences like that with my family. I've had experiences like that with people that I didn't know thought that way about me, where I have kept quiet. And in those times when people are giving that kind of feedback, whether they know I hear it or not, I can choose not to be offended, and I can choose to not accept it and receive it. But I can also choose humility. I can also choose humility, and so can you. When you hear something or you get feedback or you get judgment that's not giving you the validation and acceptance you want, you can ask yourself, is there something I can learn from this? Is there any bit of truth in this? Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. I don't think we're supposed to be proud and reject everything that people say. I think that it's triggering to us when we aren't accepted, when we're not validated, because there's some part of us that actually agrees. And so if we can seek inside and have some humility and ask ourselves, is there any truth to this? If not, I can just reject it and throw it away. Is there any course correction I could make here? Great, I'll make it. And also, that's the lens through which they see things, but it doesn't have to be the truth for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think the most beautiful thing for me about embracing radical honesty is it's also given me an opportunity to allow people to be radically honest with me, right? So the radical honesty, it needs to be able to go both ways. And I think, for me, especially in a relationship, I really do enjoy that my partner can be like, this is what this meant to me, or this is how you showed up, or this is how you didn't show up. And I'm like, I want him to hold that same space for me. Like when I'm saying those things, I want that to be received and respected. And it can also be rejected in love. It can be like, you know what, that I don't see it that way. And I respect your feelings, or I respect the conversation or whatever. And it's just so beautiful because if both people or everyone who's involved can embrace radical honesty, these things don't have to end in explosions. It can end in deeper connection and deeper intimacy. But when we are always looking for validation, it is rooted in us like performing and not being able to tell the truth, which means that we're not in a genuine relationship to begin with, right? You're not in a genuine relationship if you can never tell the truth. Let me ask you, how do you know which part of your life is actually keeping you from the results you say you want? Most people guess, and then they wonder why they're still stuck. But that's why I created the Pillar Progress Assessment. It helps you identify which of the 6 pillars of wealth need your attention right now, so you can stop spinning your wheels and finally move forward in alignment. I also go deeply into the building blocks that build that pillar, so you know exactly what your next steps should be. Take the assessment now at patricewashington.com/pillar assessment. That's patricewashington.com/pillar assessment, or click the link in the show notes and get your next steps to greater authenticity, alignment, and abundance in order.
I feel like the first 20 years of my marriage, I've been married 27 years, like a long time.
Yes, a long time.
A long time. I'm 47, so you can do the math. So I always say, like, I feel like the first 20 years of our marriage were like, they were fine, they were good, but they weren't the realest version of who we are now. Because I think for 20 years, you guys, I was just trying to be a good girl and a good wife and please my man and be what I was like supposed to be. But we didn't have the deepest levels of intimacy, emotional, physical, spiritual, intellectual, shared interests. Like we were connected, but not at the deepest level. And when you stop seeking performance and validation and you step into authenticity, there's a whole nother level of joy and abundance and connection and intimacy, whether it's in friendship, like having real friends and real connection where you can dish it out to someone because that's what they need to hear, or you can just listen and be, a shoulder to cry on. Whether it's that friendship or it's that romantic relationship, like I desire real now. I want the things in my life to be real. I don't even have the energy for fake. The things that I've been through over the last few years, like I just can't even do it. I have had to go to the pit, and I think God allowed certain things to happen, like I said, because he wanted me to have real in my life. He knew if I had real and I wasn't seeking the validation and the performance, that he could do so much more through me than me getting the hit of the drug of approval from other people. And so, if you're going through something, like it's for a reason, and it's going to be for good. Like you're going to come through the other side no longer wanting fake. I want the real thing. Like Maverick City says, that song, The Real Thing.
That's how it started. That's how I started this season. Rachel's passing has really brought up for me, and we talk about this. I send you voice memos, and one thing about Brooke and I, we're gonna have an 8 to 11 minute voice memo. It's at this point, it's like you might as well call, but we're always on different time zones.
We're too busy. We just podcasts.
Yeah, we just send each other podcasts. But the opening episode for this season was about friendships. Rachel was such an amazing friend. and really demonstrated for me what friendship looks like, that it just makes other friendships intolerable. And not that I'm just like throwing people away. It's not that.
Yeah.
But we had this idea of the circles, and I called it the core, the crew, and the crowd. And the core, those like 5 or 6 people that you really go deep with. But then you have your crew, like I would consider you my crew. You're in the crew. If you reach out to me, I'm responding. Like we can do the things, we can have the conversations, right? But what I was doing was confusing people in the crowd with people in the crew or core. I was giving people in the crowd a certain level of access that they did not deserve. And I think especially in our world as speakers and coaches and, all this stuff that we do, sometimes you allow people who are in the crowd to appear closer than they are, because in this space, it seems like, well, this is how you move things ahead, and not that you're consciously, because I've never been someone who's like, I'm going to be friends with this person because I want to be seen in this way. I've never consciously thought that. Never.
But sometimes they're flattering, and it's like that flattery that's the validation that tricks you.
It is. And it's the word choice. It's the language. It's that in our space, everyone says, I love you. And it's sis, and it's friend, and it's instant connection. And because we're always in these spaces where we tell so many vulnerable stories, you start to feel like you know people much sooner than you actually do. And it gives the appearance that the connection is deeper than it actually is. But there's only a handful of people that I will send an 8-minute voice memo to. You know what I'm saying? There's only a handful of people whose 11-minute response I will listen to,
Well, be careful not to confuse validation with love and intimacy. Be careful. They're not the same thing. Anybody can validate you, right? Anyone can compliment you. I mean, it's a dime a dozen, but don't confuse that with intimacy and true relationship. Be careful who you give an inside, seat at your table. There's the book called Don't Let the Devil Have a Seat at Your Table. I would also say, be careful. Don't let certain people at your table. I think this goes for everything. Like, she shares the story in that chapter about when she got her diagnosis for breast cancer, and she did a lot of research, and she decided not to go the traditional route. And her mother thought she was crazy. And, when I read that again, I have chills, thinking about it. This is for every decision in your life, just because someone has more education, just because someone thinks they're more spiritually inclined and they have a word for you, just because someone, Patrice, I know you love that one, that someone thinks that they're entitled to tell you what you should do, does not mean that it's the right thing for you to do. And if we're seeking approval and validation, we'll continue to be blown back and forth by people who we perceive as being more professional or more educated. And this happened to me a year and a half ago. This is something that I started sharing a little bit. You heard me talk about this on Amberly's stage. And when my son, when he was 16, in March of last year, at 16 years of age, he was 93 pounds. And we took him to the world's leading expert on anorexia. She was like the head, of the American Association of Eating Disorders. We flew to New Mexico. We had a meeting with her, and she met with him and then called us into the office. And she said, if it were me, I would admit him today, and he would be admitted for 6 months. And if you don't do this, there's only a 10% chance that he will ever recover, because people just aren't able to do this on their own. And so, I'm the expert, I'm the world's leading, I have here's all the data, here's all the information, this is what you need to do. And essentially the feeling was like, you're stupid or you're irresponsible if you don't do this. But something inside of me, actually, I did not need her validation. I did not need her approval. And something inside of me, we all have it. It's that gut feeling. I taught you guys in Hawaii, it's your na'au. Your na'au is your inner knowing. How many times when we're making decisions do we go to everyone else and we're like, but they have experience, but they have $1 million business, but they've been married 25 years. You don't know all the truth of everything. And if you are feeling something in your na'au, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. And so we did not make that decision. We did not find a place for him to be admitted. We knew that we were his treatment. We were his therapy. We just had this feel, and we weren't dumb. We read all the books. We did the things in the books, but we did it at home. And today he is healed. He is healed. And so he was in that 10%. But had I wanted a validation of a professional or what my family thought we should do, he might have been worse off. I had this feeling that he would be worse off. And where in your life are you putting somebody else's opinion as superseding your knowledge in your now, which God gave you? He gave you a spirit of discernment. And you're pushing that to the side because some expert or someone that's more successful than you says to do that. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you know inside and the message you've been given. So I don't know. I love when she shares that story because I'm like, oh, yes, this is exactly what happened to me.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what you said earlier about when it's from within, essentially you can sustain it, right? And it reminds me of what we talk about at Redefining Wealth. It's the ignited, aligned vision. And what's ignited is from inside. A lot of us live our lives from inspiration. It's from looking outside of ourselves and saying, oh, because they did that, I'm inspired. I need to go in that direction. And you can be inspired, but if you're not ignited from within, anything that happens like in life, because we know life be life. And so anything that comes up will extinguish that desire or that flame to get something done. But when it's ignited from within, it can't be dampened. Like it can't be put out. That's why I always say for those people who are like wanting to do something and you're feeling called to do something and you've been trying to put it off and put it on the back burner because it wasn't validated by other people. And folks have said they don't understand you or they don't understand what you're trying to do. And so you keep trying to extinguish it, diminish it, push it away. And it keeps coming up like a beach ball, right? That can't be held underwater. It's because it's that ignited like thing inside of you and you can't just put it out. The best I would say you could do is start to align your actions with that vision of what's ignited within. It's like, how do I start to, we speak from the 6 pillars of wealth. How do I start to align my life to set me up to really take that flame within to the next level? Because that isn't easily taken away. It's just not.
No, it's not. And you're just delaying the inevitable. It's like you're going to do it eventually. And would you rather do it 10 years from now and look back and be like, I delayed this for 10 years. Like this was something that could have been born 10 years ago. And how many lives could have been impacted, including your own. I feel like it's inevitable. Like the work that's supposed to come through you will come through you. I just want to get to it sooner. I don't want to delay it. I want to get down to business. I want to get to it. And I think for me, especially in losing Rachel, I just felt like how deeply important it is that we stop messing around, that we stop making all of these cute little stories up about what we need from other people's approval or other people's validation and how this is the one life that we get. And I don't want to get to the end of my life and say, I was afraid. Like I was afraid of what Sally from high school might think. I was afraid of my mom never understanding me. I was afraid that my husband wasn't going to come along with me. So I stayed small and I stayed exactly who I was. I don't want to get to the end of my life and say I was afraid. And if that's you and you're listening, this is going to be the number one thing you have to work on is ending the validation era. Because once you set yourself free of those invisible flaxen cords, it's like all the weight that has been on you forever, it just falls off of you and you're made new and you have this energy and that ignition inside of you, it's like fully lit. Fully lit. And so I want to live a fully lit life.
Fully lit. That's what we're going to name this episode. No, I'm kidding. Fully lit life. Yes.
Internally lit, not externally lit. Like I don't need a new drug. I don't need anything else. Like what you most need to do that she so beautifully talks about is just step into being who you were meant to be and what you were meant to do. Be willing to accept the consequences of what that is. Be willing to repel some people so that you can attract those that you actually were brought to earth to serve. Because if we really, really believe in our purpose, ultimately our divine purpose is love. We express that love in many different ways. Patrice does it through what she does in her community. I do it in my way. Rachel did it in her way. But if that is our divine purpose and we are to do it in our unique way, we have to let go of everything, every opinion, everyone's validation in order that we can step into the fullest expression of love. Like we each have a specific group of people, a specific community, a specific audience, a specific person or people that we are supposed to help. And when we keep contorting ourselves and trying to become what other people want us to be, we never actually become the person that does the work that we're supposed to do here on earth. So to me, it's just like losing her made me want to be even more real, more powerful, care less about what other people think, like not in a, I'm a bad A boss babe, not in that way, but just this divine, like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. You know? I feel the same way. I feel the exact same way. Like, it's not from this arrogance of like, I don't care about what you say. It's more from this just inner knowing that I cannot care so much about what everyone thinks, or I'll never make progress. I'll never do the things that God has truly called me to do. I'll never serve in the way that I'm called to serve. I always tell my coaching clients, I am not here for you to like me, right? It's a bonus that you like me. It's a bonus that you all love me. But at the end of the day, if I bend, you will break. If I bend to your will and to your limiting beliefs and to all the crap, you know, that you bring, because we all bring our own crap to this. If I bend to that, then the vision that you have breaks. And I'm here to hold space for that vision. So I can't bend to what you don't feel like doing today. or to who you're concerned about. I always tell my clients, you know what the vision is. They'll be like, oh, I'm just not clear. I'm like, no, you're really clear. You're afraid of the visibility associated with that vision.
Yeah.
And let's talk about what is that committee you're trying to please and what you've been called to do. And they're like, here she goes. Exactly. Here I go.
I think acting confused it's like just a trick of the ego. It's so like everyone says, I just need more clarity. I just don't know what to do. And that's really not true. You're just afraid of the judgments of others.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that people do know what they're supposed to do. It's just this fear of what might happen on the other side. And I have this sticker that says, but did you die? And it's like every time I've got to do something scary or I've got to have a difficult conversation or I'm going to launch something new, I look at that and it's like, well, you know what? I'm still here on earth. I have another day to live. I have another day to create. Everything that I've been through, I've made it through. Every judgment, I think the worst being from those closest to me, from family, from people that actually mean something in my life. Okay, I have survived that. So can I survive the strangers on Instagram? Can I survive the coworker? Yes, I can. Okay. And it's like having this like conversation, going to a court of law for yourself and fighting that battle inside of your mind and getting into, she even talks about getting into kind of like a logical reasoning sort of a space where you can pull yourself out of that spin cycle of the stories you've told yourself about needing so-and-so to approve of you, or, you know, am I going to be made fun of, or what are people going to think? Like, okay, let's take a step back and look at everything that I've already done, the evidence that I can survive judgment, the evidence that if I do this work, it's going to impact other people. And when we look at the evidence, it gives us strength to continue to move forward and make the decisions that we need to make to do the work that we're meant to do.
Yeah. And every time I've looked back at people who didn't get on board with something that I was doing, it's always inevitable that eventually when either that thing pops off or becomes successful, or it is the stepping stone towards the thing that became successful, because in the practice I got to learn some things and, you know, I was introduced to something. It's always those people who will go, I always knew you would do it. I'm like, oh, Is that so? Because I actually remember the opposite, but that's fine. That's good. Thank you so much. Brooke, you talked about all the great things that you do. You kind of hinted at it, but I do want people to know that Aligned is coming back for what year is this? January of 2026 will
Oh,
be what year of your Aligned event?
well, let's see. 2020 was the first year. So this will be the seventh.
The seventh Aligned. You guys, I have been to 3 of Brooks Aligned. I've been to Arizona twice and I did Tampa as
Mhm.
well.
Yep.
And it has been incredible every single time. You know how to put on an event. I don't know how you do it, sister girl, sister friend, but this woman puts on incredible events. I know it's in San Diego this year.
It's in San Diego at the Hard Rock Hotel.
Okay, tell us about Aligned, why you started it, and what you are trusting God for with the one that's coming up.
Yeah. Well, I think our hearts are very similar in the things that we want to do. We want to see people living in alignment with what matters to them and what they're supposed to create. And living in alignment means that truly we do have to end the validation and end the people pleasing and the performance. And we have to learn the ways in which we can actually truly profoundly change. I'm obsessed with change. Like, how do you change your life? How do you change your circumstances? How do you change your bank account? How do you change your relationships with yourself and with others? To me, alignment is similar to the pillars that you teach, Patrice, where we have to focus on all of those pillars, because if we don't, our life is unsteady, unstable, and we might have a dream of something that we want to accomplish or achieve, a desire on our heart that God has given us. But if we are out of alignment and certain areas of our life are starving or suffering or needing attention, we're going to be stopped. We're going to be pulled back. And so at Align, we talk about how to get the various areas of your life into alignment. But truly, I think that the thing that we really teach you is how to profoundly change your life. And it starts with your beliefs about yourself. It starts with the patterns that you recognize in your life. It starts with igniting creativity and resourcefulness and stepping into who you were always created to be. And it came from the fact that I suffered profoundly and I was misaligned. And I think that's where all of our work comes from. I feel like it's just this launch pad at the beginning of the year that brings you home to truth. I love truth. I love true principles. I love speaking the truth, teaching the truth. And I think that when you're in a space where you can feel that truth is spoken, and you're in a space like the spaces you create where you feel like you belong and you are loved and you can come as you are, whether you are young or old, successful or just getting started, don't know where you're going or know exactly where you're going. When you're in a space that's full of truth, light, love, and community, you come home to the truth and you come home to your own personal alignment. And from there, you can move into the rest of the year with purpose, with conviction, with passion, and with clarity. And that's really what I want people to leave there with. So it's my baby. I'm passionate about it. We do dance. We play the music. We have a good time. It's not just a cry fest. You'll cry, but you're going to have a good time too.
Play music and have a good time and dance. It is a party. It is such a joy. And Brooke has hundreds of women and sometimes a few good men in that space. And I really want to encourage you guys to check out Align this year in my home state of California. And we will make sure that we link and share all the details in the show notes. But it is a wonderful way to start your year. I can say that I've been to almost half of them now. I gotta speed it up, keep it going. But Aligned is incredible, you guys, and
Thank
Brooke is
you.
such a joy, such a genuine person, and definitely she is in the close part of the crew. I genuinely adore you. You're incredible, and I'm so grateful that you could share this space and have this conversation in honor of our girl, Rachel Luna.
Thank you for having me here. I think that we are in the work of changing lives. And that's what you and I and many of the women we associate with genuinely want to do. We're not seeking validation. We don't need approval. It doesn't have to be a specific number. we just want people to come into our rooms. I feel the same about your room, is like, I want people to be in your room because I know that there's a profound transformation and change that will happen there. And that's the work that we're in, is ending the validation, ending the need for approval, stepping into alignment. And it is there where you will find your greatest joy. And we're created to have joy, and that's available to you. So I hope to see you there or in Patrice's room, but thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate you so much. Oh, you guys, did you enjoy that episode? Listen, at the end of the day, validation addiction is really about losing ourselves in the performance of people pleasing. And as Brooke said, we contort, we shrink, we play roles that others have written for us. And in the process, we start to disconnect from who we really are and from God's voice within us. And whether you are aligned with Brooke and or at Redefining Wealth Live 2026 with me, or in any of these spaces, here's what we want you to remember. When others judge you, it is not proof of any unworthiness. It is evidence that you're being seen and heard. So instead of chasing validation, as Rachel says, just seek verification. Verify that what you believe about yourself is in alignment with the truth. Because if you believe it, then you'll act on it consistently, and you'll accept only what matches that. Radical ownership and radical honesty mean looking at the tables we've set and asking, who have I invited to sit here? And do they deserve that seat? Do they deserve that seat anymore? Do I need them in the way that I have made myself need them? It means acknowledging the toxic patterns that we've also allowed and deciding whether we'll keep performing or we'll finally walk away and do the work of becoming and coming home to ourselves. This is the work. This is the beauty of the work that Rachel did so well. And I'm so honored and blessed to have shared another episode where we are unpacking some of the goodness of permission to offend. Listen, we're going to be talking about this more in the Redefining Wealth app. So make sure you come on into the app. We're still working through our book club. We're doing it together. So grab your copy of Permission to Offend. Many purpose chasers are listening on Audible, or they're grabbing their copy wherever you get your books from, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Doesn't matter. Grab a copy, come on in, and let's do this work together. And again, if you're a successful woman who still struggle with validation, we just want you to know you're not alone. Like, you don't have to hide from it. You don't have to pretend this is not your story. We get it. We get how it shows up in so many ways. And if I can ever support you in working through that, come on into the app and send me a DM and let's see what we can do. You guys, I hope this episode was a blessing to you. Make sure you rate and review. And until next time, I want you to go live your life's purpose, find fulfillment, and earn more without ever feeling like you have to chase money. We'll talk to you later.